Today we're playing Stratego. The rules are simple. If your piece has a higher number, you win. If your piece has a lower number, you lose. The goal is to either destroy all of your opponent's active pieces or capture your opponent's flag. So in this case, this is why my flag is surrounded by these bombs, because if my opponent runs into one of them, his piece will explode. The highest number in this game is 10, which could be defeated by one called Spy, but the Spy must attack 10 first. And when it comes to bombs, these bombs could be defused by miners, which are freeze. But as you can see, right where I'm level 5, my opponent is level 7. And right there on the right side, these are the total values we still currently have. So as you can see, my piece got destroyed, my number became lower. Right there, if I attack this, obviously I lose. Scouts have an interesting feature, can jump multiple squares at once, so how about if I check out what my opponent's piece is in this place? That's a 7. That's a 7, immediately gets blocked like that. Let's see, I know that's a 6, so I can bring in my 7. Which, to be honest, is kind of giveaway to my opponent. But we're not sure what that piece is, but I might be able to capture with my 6. Let's check it out, and that's it. Still a little bit of a bait. Alright, I mean I can push. Push forward, should push this back because that's a 7. But right there, that was a 6, right? So I can take this down. A 3 piece for me. If my opponent moves into this square right there, I could trade 7 for 7. If that's the same number, both of your pieces get destroyed. Okay, so my opponent already saw the 6. Let's push it back and let's push back my 7, so it would be harder for my opponent to remember what these pieces exactly are. Right, I mean, let's attack. This piece has already moved, cannot be a bomb, but it's an 8, okay? So my opponent is actually aggressive, bringing in his 8 in this place. To be honest, do not have that many active pieces, which would be a higher number on the left side. So I'll just simply leave it like this. Right, and this one is a 6. Right, which I could capture with my 7. Okay, and so this situation becomes 7, and right there, okay, as you can see, here's the whole situation. Should I bring in my 10? On one hand, I do not want to reveal it too immediately, but a good protecting piece for the 7 and that 6. Right, that's an 8. How about if I check this out? Already motive this, so my opponent knows that's not a bomb. And I found my opponent's bomb, which made my piece to explode. Okay, well, my opponent knows that's a 7. So that's potentially a high piece. Okay, well, that's a 5. 5, my opponent can trade it for my 5, or I'll capture it with 7. Okay, I'm capturing it for my 7, okay, so I save my 5. Not sure what to do right where my left place is kinda blocked. Have 2 scouts in that place, but we do not serve much purpose. My opponent already seen this 7, so how about if I go with my 5? Low pieces right there are good to checking out the values what your opponent has. Basically used to reveal opponent's pieces over there. Could technically attack one of these, but could run into a bomb, so I'm not sure if I really want that. Maybe I'll use my 2 to scout. Also, my opponent seems to be really passive, okay, but finally attacks. Attacks my 6, but that's really good for me because now I get his 7. Better values for me. And right there, I'll be just simply using the scout to check out what my opponent got. Okay, that's a 4, I can take it with my 5. Could bring in another 2. Okay, I'm going to get his 9. 10 versus 9. Think that was such a blunder. To be honest, why my opponent is running away from that? Is that a lower number? Could technically get him with my 7-2 over there. Let's see. Okay, that's it. I mean, he already saw that 7, so I'm not revealing. anything in this place. Let's take this. Okay, well, that's a 10. My opponent was bluffing when it comes to that. What about this? A bomb. Want to scout this. And that's a 3. A 3 and 10. Okay, 3 and 10. Okay, well, my opponent already saw that that's a 10. My opponent is in a different place of the board, so I can really take this. Unless, like, he forgot where my 10 was over there. Right there could be a spy behind this piece, so he cannot attack us freely. Could get his free. This piece could also be a 1 itself, so cannot really bring my 10 next to it. If I want to play it safe, I can take this down with 3. Nice. To be honest, I could bring my 2 and check it out. Not jumping multiple squares around, so to not make sure that's a scout. Okay, and that's a 5, so basically bluffing tactics by my opponent. Let's bring in my 3 for a bait. Some sort of bait. Or maybe I could even defuse bombs. Because his flag could be in the corner like my flag is. Am I willing to risk my 8 for that? Oh. I mean, let's see. Okay, that's a 3, wasn't worth it. Now I lose my 8. Let's bring in my 4. At the very least, now right where I should keep track on my opponent's 10. Because my opponent keeps quickly making turns right there, could be really hard to follow over there if I'm not focused. Let's check out this. That's a 4. Okay, my opponent can attack this if he wants. He basically loses. Kind of baiting with my 6 over there. My opponent might think that that's a spy. Right, I'm not sure. As you can see, my opponent is moving his pieces right there around kinda randomly, and right there I do not want to go forward myself either. But my opponent got his 10 in this place, right? How about if I move right there, maybe my opponent will attack with one of these. This 6 is kind of for baiting, so to reveal more of his active pieces, what I would avoid running into bombs. Maybe I could use more of my scouts to potentially find a 1. A spy. Okay, well, jumped too many squares, now my opponent knows that's at you. Okay, kind of protecting this one. Okay, that's at you. Don't want this one to be destroyed. Maybe I should have moved it back though. Okay, well, that's an 8 over there. I want to check out this. Is that a bomb? And that's a 4. To be honest, let's bring in my 1. My opponent isn't really aggressive, which is a little bit annoying. Would like my opponent to be more aggressive. Alright, that might be a lower piece since he's moving back. I forgot where is his 10. Okay, this is an 8. Let's use the 6 just to move it around. Okay, scoutsman 3. No, that's not a bomb. And as you can see, I'm a little behind, but I've got just 9. If I get his 10, that will be a super big advantage to me. So I could always make a comeback. Let's bring in my 9. Right, my opponent doesn't move his 8. Nice, and now it's much closer. Brings this is that a 10? Don't know. Also, my opponent knows that a 3 could take over this technically. Let's bring in my 3. I'm not sure if that's the best idea. Question, what do you do? I mean, technically I could use one of the scouts to see what this piece is over there. Yeah, 2 actually. So my opponent was bluffing and I was afraid. Okay, wait, don't you see that's a miner? But I mean, my miner defeats it, if that's a miner, so that is fine. For a moment I thought I might be losing the game, but apparently not yet. My opponent's flag could be this one, or could be this corner over there. Let's see. Is that a bomb? Yes, it is. But my opponent could retake with this, right? Okay, he doesn't, so let's see, is that a flag? That's another bomb. 2 bombs defused. Okay, so at this point that basically must be one of these if I had to guess in this corner. Could trade 6 for 6 if we want. Okay, well, that's not good. If that's an 8 and if that's a 3 over there, then I lose the game. That's a 4 actually, so that's fine. Because if that's a 3, I can retake with my 6. 6 for 6, I could trade it. Let's do that. Even though right there I'm behind the number-wise over there. I mean, let's see, if that's a 10, I'm fine trading it. Yeah, 5. I might get to this piece over there, since my opponent isn't really doing anything with that. If that's a 5 and that 5 explodes. Let's see, can defeat this as well. Okay, my opponent might be luring me to 1, so not going forward when it comes to that. Let's see, my opponent, okay, still got 1 8, by the way. Let's see. And so that's a 6. Nice. And as you can see right there, we lead again. My opponent takes this, but right there, this is where he falls for a trap because that's a 1. And as you know, 1 has a special effect. I destroy his 10. Nice, and right there, basically this spy is kind of useless now. But I guess still a piece to run into bombs. I like to test that out. Also, since my opponent lost 10, I wanted to see my 10 is freely to move, but I mean my opponent still got a spy. So should be careful. And that's not a spy, because my opponent would have attacked, if not. Could bring in my miners, I guess. Let's see if that's an 8, I can even trade, but that's a 2, so I easily destroy it. My opponent trades. He still got his 7s by the way. Myself have lost my 7s. So I should be more careful about that. Let's see. Okay, another piece mode, that's not a bomb. Still got a scout by the way, which I could use. But basically I know that my opponent like gets one of these. More of a question is how do I clear out these pieces over there. So I get to these bombs. With my miners. My opponent could still win if he takes over my flag. Okay, I mean, I guess I could use this one for a bait. In a way. My opponent is moving closer towards this. I do not like if that's a 7 and if that's a miner, my opponent might win. Let's see if that's a 7 and if that's a miner, I lose. Let's see if that actually is that's a miner. If that's a miner, I'm losing besides me still having 10 KGGs. KGGs, well, what a game. What a game should have defended my flag. GG's.